Hello and welcome back to the Sideline Eye podcast. We've a very happy show for everyone today. Armagh got off to a great start at the weekend in the football, the hurling, and the Camogie leagues. To talk us through the Armagh Monaghan game from Sunday is Paddy Savage and former Armagh star Aaron Kernan. So thanks very much for coming on, man. And I suppose Aaron, for the first round of the league, Armagh, this was sort of if they wanted to stay in Division 1, this was a game they had to win, and they done so impressively. Plenty of improvements to be made, but they got the 2 points anyway.
Yeah, to be fair, yesterday morning, if you asked any Armagh supporter, all they wanted was the 2 points on the board, and let the confidence and maybe whatever else could be tweaked on be built on for the following weeks. But yeah, massive. It's been a while since we've been in Division 1. We have been building this past few years, and I think it goes without saying that I suppose our main goal and our most immediate goal at this stage is to make sure that we retain our status up there, because realistically it's where you're going to learn most about yourself. And if you have aspirations of going on to compete in Ulster or become Ulster champions and beyond, playing in Division 1 on an annual basis is where you need to be at. So from that perspective, I suppose don't worry about nearly anything else at this stage. It was very, very important, and it was great to get the 2 points, and I suppose to see Armagh back in TV competing in Division 1.
And Paddy, like we spoke last week and last year about how important it was to get back to Division 1, and Aaron has said it there that you need to be playing at that level if you want to improve and push into them in with them top teams. And Armagh got off to a flying start. They got 1-3 in the first 8 minutes, and it looked like, yeah, Armagh are ready to make this step up and play against these top teams on a regular basis.
Yeah, no, they started the game really well. There was an element of, I don't know, maybe not fortune with the start they got, because it definitely was a penalty, but I suppose there wasn't a massive amount of creating in that goal. But you could see it really. The team really caught life. There was a real high press then after that kick out after the penalty and forcing a point. And that was after 2 minutes. There were still those 4 points Armagh were ahead. At the end of the game, and look, it was just such a brilliant result at the spring start. It changes the complexion of this league now. In a lot of ways, Armagh pretty near enough got 3 shots now at staying up in Division 1. Because if you win one more of these games, like for example, if they beat Tyrone next week, they'll almost certainly stay up. If you get 2 wins, chances are you stay up. And then if that doesn't work out, you'll have the playoff anyway. So yeah, look, just couldn't have worked out better. We talked about last week about you want to see them being competitive, and they were more than competitive. They thoroughly deserved the win.
And that perfect start obviously helped them get the win. How important is that for a team like Armagh? They were probably slight underdogs going into the game. As we've said, they haven't played for almost 10 years in Division 1. How important was that Division 1, that good start to get the win?
It is. It's massive, to be fair. I can put myself in a player's perspective. You're so long trying to get there, and it's every player's ambition that you want to be playing against your top teams. And I suppose just the way things have gone since the Donegal game last year, and I suppose how poor it was, and how annoying it would have been for the players in terms of the non-performance, and then the not knowing over this past few months when it's going to start, if it's going to start, how many games I'm going to have. All that does build up, and there's a bit of anxiety that comes with it. But to be fair, we couldn't have got a better start getting the penalty. I suppose it's good enough to get the penalty. Then there's pressure on Soupy to put it away, which he did brilliantly. And then, as Paddy said, just straight after that, you could see the high press, the drive, and the hunger from the boys to pen Monaghan in and not let them out. And to be honest with you, that 8 minutes for me was the winning of the game, because as Paddy alludes to there was still only them 4 points 70 odd minutes later, the difference between the sides. But I felt that we really went after them early on. We sensed a wee bit of blood at that stage, and we got massive rewards out of it. Obviously what happened, I suppose, between the first 10 minutes to the last 10 minutes, there's plenty to work on from that perspective. But in terms of settling boys into it and getting them used and accustomed to Division 1, we couldn't have asked for any better.
And you said there's plenty to work on. In between times, there's plenty to talk about as well. And I suppose the big thing is that Armagh had such a good start that them 6 points within 8 minutes, and they let Monaghan back into it, and we're only a point ahead at half time. And the big thing is that they were outscored 1-5 to 3 points for the rest of it. How big of a concern will that be for Geezer, or not? They not threw away that lead, but it was significantly reduced by the time the halftime whistle came.
It is an issue that we seem to have, I suppose, since we had our great team. Consistency is something what we seem to struggle with in terms of back-to-back performances, but even in terms of once we get a good run in a team in a game, I'm not sure whether it's, a bit of complacency sets in the boys where we'll take maybe the extra pass, or we'll maybe drop a bit further back in terms of whenever they're defending, or maybe an extra solo going forward. It's very, very hard to pinpoint it. It's even harder whenever you're a supporter and you're not at the games. You can't really see what's going on. We had only one camera angle really, so you weren't seeing shots from behind goals in terms of was there more options ahead of our boys coming out of defence or midfield to play the ball. So it is difficult to comment on that, but to me, it would just be a wee bit concerning that, to go into such a command and lead, to let it be pegged back. Now, put into context, it is only our first game back. We haven't played for months. We're playing in Division 1 against a team who's just been there for 7 years and well acclimatised. So factor all that in, but you can't control a lot of that. What we can control is, I suppose, our decision making and the shape of how we attacked and defended. And for me, particularly in the goal, it just reminded me a wee bit of the Donegal game in the Ulster semi-final last year, where we had an awful lot of men behind the ball. But sometimes I find just what happens at that stage is the accountability for who's on who. It takes serious communication to make sure everyone's picked up. And that's what it looked like to me, was they're just, someone maybe thought they were passing a player on and it didn't happen. And Sean Jones, actually, if you look at it, he comes running from just inside the 45 and ends up in that and sticks it into the back of the net. And we had loads of men back. It wasn't that we were left isolated, but for him to be able to come straight through the middle of defence and put away a goal like that there, I know for sure from playing with Kieran McKeever in particular, who's in doing the defensive coaching, that's something that he's going to work on. And to be fair, you have to make mistakes to learn from them, and you're better airing them out now than whenever more is at stake. But that's definitely it's one aspect that against even your more top teams in the Division 1, they would really, really punish you on multiple occasions if that was the case to happen again.
Yeah, the goal was something definitely stood out to me as well. I think we had 12 players back, 13 if you include the keeper. And it was a fairly slow build-up. I think Ryan Wiley had it on the far side, and they were able to kick it across a couple of times and get it down the wing. And I suppose Paddy, Aaron touched on it there about Sean Jones coming through and running from the 45-metre line and run. By the time he got to the goal, he was unmarked. He was free to kick the ball into the net. That is a big concern for Armagh. If they're going to stay in Division 1 and maybe do anything in the Championship later on the year, they have to stop conceding goals first.
Yeah, it's probably especially a concern if you watched the Kerry match against Galway earlier in the weekend, because they were absolutely lethal. But look, teams always have their little spells of purple patch. That was the big obvious thing about the goal. Look, Aaron's gone through it in detail, and I don't have much to add. He summed it up perfectly. Just that they'd be just disappointed to have all those men back, to be set, and then to concede. Not only the fellow that scored the goal, but the final pass, as the Monaghan nipped in down along the end line, those definitely clears lost there. But look, it's maybe it's maybe gonna it's occasionally gonna happen, but you just want to restrict the amount of those types of chances that you're giving away, because you'll be punished at this level, as you have said.
And Paddy, we were very lucky not to concede a second goal then just before half time. If anybody remembers, the short kick out didn't work out. I think it was maybe the centre half, was it Mulligan grabbed the ball and Ryan Kennedy fouled him. So we're very lucky not to concede a goal, and Kennedy was lucky not to get a black card as well.
Yeah, like that could have been a crucial point. Like, when you look at the rules about the black card and the penalty, it does say it's in the if you're in the arc. So yeah, look, it looked like something that would have been a black card, even before there was any new rules. But Yeah, I thought Armagh were fortunate. I knew that was a pretty crucial moment, because if say if Monaghan got a penalty and put that away, they're probably going in half time ahead, and then they're coming out for the first sort of 7-8 minutes of the second half with an extra man. So probably just definitely rode our luck with that. And again, those mistakes happen. It wasn't as though we gave away an opportunity to Monaghan to create something. It was just just a kick out going wrong, and I suppose Ryan probably felt he sort of had to pull him down with the new rules the way they are. There's a pretty severe punishment there.
What do you think on that, Aaron? Was Armagh lucky to get away with that and not concede a goal or a penalty from that situation?
Yeah, I suppose whenever you put down the interpretation of it in comparison to what we've seen, particularly in the Dublin and Roscommon game, the referee was so harsh on Roscommon. They give away 3 penalties in the game. So if you go by the letter of the law, I suppose it was just borderline in terms of it was just inside the 21. And from reading the feedback today, it seems that Kieran Brannigan, the referee, felt that it wasn't a deliberate drag down, that Ryan Kennedy had been making an attempt to tackle fairly, obviously just giving away a free. So to be fair, there's not too often we do get the rub of the green. So we'll take it while it's going, and hopefully we'll get a few more of them. But yeah, realistically speaking, it would have been a disaster for Armagh to lose Ryan, to give away a penalty, and as Paddy said, the opportunity then maybe to go in behind whenever we had dominated so much of the first half. But like I said, we're entitled to a bit of a rub of the green every once in a while, so we'll certainly not complain about it.
On the other side of the field, then, Armagh have so much attacking quality, and it's well renowned now that that's the best part of their game is going forward. That's where most of their best players are from 8 up the field, all attacking players. And I suppose 116, it's a massive score to put up for the first game in Division 1 for a lot of these players, and probably 116 would win a lot of games for you. I've seen Andy Moran had been speaking on a podcast recently, and he was saying that they always targeted at least 20 points if they were going to beat Dublin. So I'm not saying Armagh could beat Dublin, but I'm saying 19 points would win you a lot of games, especially if you're scoring that against Division 1 teams.
Yeah, like the point you're making is that's the target that the top teams that we're aiming to get at. That's what they're looking at. So if that's what they're looking at and that's where we want to be, well, then that's what we need to be hitting similar scores. So you say first day out, very good. And particularly, I know it's maybe not the Monaghan team that we've seen over this past 10 years that's won the couple of Ulsters, or that's been in Division 1 for 7 years in a row there. But that's really only in their attack. From their midfield back, they still had a lot of their household names and a lot of their established players. So for us to be able to rack up the 116 against that defence, definitely very heartening. It's not an area, I suppose, that we're ever that concerned about. But even at the 116, I do feel that, again, there will be more scope for improvement, as the boys get on the field a bit more with each other, get to know Kieran Donny and his coaching style, and he'll get to know the players as well too. Like all the feedback that I have heard, the boys wouldn't tell you a huge pile, but anything that you would hear from them, they would just say how impressed they are with him in terms of his knowledge, his enthusiasm for the group and getting involved. So again, the longer that goes on, the better that group is going to become, because he'll just be able to impart more knowledge as the weeks go by, and like say, he'll understand maybe what makes people tick, maybe where they fit into systems better. But we seem to be doing a lot of rotating in terms of who our full forward was, but getting earlier ball to the full forward in the full forward position for me is something that definitely we can start to improve on from this week. Again, we had a good early start, but particularly if you think about the first half, I just felt Oisín O'Neill was in full forward but he seemed to be getting a lot of ball breaking out into the corners, where again I would imagine the likes of Kieran Donaghy will be looking that maybe there's more direct ball going in closer to the edge of the D for Oisín to win, take on his man or shoot himself, or obviously lay it off to the boys coming off his shoulder at pace. But it is an aspect that we can work on improving. A lot of the good scores we got was from coming running deep and good build-up play. But again, I think we just depending on who you come up against and what style of football they play. I think just improving on both aspects in terms of carrying the ball and our direct delivery is definitely two key areas that I know we can work on and we can improve on as the weeks go by. And no better challenge this week than someone again like Tyrone to try and better ourselves against.
And Aaron touched on it there, Paddy, the rotation in that full forward line. I think Oisin O'Neill did spend most of his time, and certainly in the first half, in full forward. But you had the likes of Rory Grugan then as well, who was in. Stephen Campbell, of course, Aidan Falker, even at times was in that full forward line. And I suppose it shows the versatility of the Armagh players. Like Rory Grugan would have come into the squad, maybe 10 years ago as a playmaking centre half forward. Aidan Falker is obviously the full back at the minute. Oisin O'Neill's the midfielder, but they can all rotate and they can all play in that forward line. How important is that for Armagh?
It's brilliant in the sense that all those fellas you mentioned there, Sean, they're really, really talented footballers. They're really natural footballers, and they could probably play anywhere in a forward line. And it also just poses different questions for the defenders that they're going to be taken into different positions, and maybe some won't be as comfortable being that being asked to defend that close to goal as previously. But look, you've alluded to it earlier on. Like the forward line is definitely our strength, and we created some great points and something fantastic chances as well. And yeah, no, look, it was great to see. 116's a great score. Hopefully we can keep that up.
On that rotation, Aaron, you sort of touched on Kieran Donaghy there. Is that something, obviously when he took this job and got in with under Geezer, a lot was said about his basketball qualities and that he would bring that into the game. Is that sort of rotation, is that something he has brought in from his basketball days? And obviously playing in full forward himself for Kerry, he knows how important the movement is in that full forward line.
It is, yeah. To me, and I suppose the other main team that you would see doing an awful lot would be Dublin, where they'll get someone into full forward. If they don't get the ball, they'll break out to the wing and someone new comes in. We seem to be more, initially it was Oisin, Rory went in for a while, Soupy, Ray, and that was the first half. Aidan then seemed to be the main man until the water break in the second half, who was playing up front. But in terms of, I suppose, Kieran's partnership in full forward, he always had the likes of the Gooch feeding off him. There was a time where he had a trio or himself, Gooch and Tommy Walsh. But most teams try to have at least two inside forwards at the moment. And again, like I said, that's only his first time being in a competitive environment with this Armagh team and seeing how they move, see how they tick under a bit of pressure. So I'm sure he'll have plenty of ideas and how we can improve. And again, it's only going to enhance our forward line. But definitely, if we have one key man who's doing the ball willing, just getting that ball to him a bit closer to goal, and then having someone who's feeding off him that bit sharper, it just enables us to get scores a bit easier, which you definitely need whenever you're coming up against the elite all the time. The running and ball carrying from deep, it takes an awful lot of time and effort and energy out of you to maintain it for 70 minutes. So if we could get a few more easier scores where it was your typical long direct ball into one of our full forwards and someone coming on a loop and chipping over an easy score. If we get another 5 or 6 of them a game, that's where you start to rack up the scores and start to hit the targets that you need to be at to be competing and winning at the top level.
And Paddy, while we're talking about how good Armagh were and how they were the better team, Monaghan weren't full strength either. Like Conor McManus only come on, the two Hughes only come on. Drew Wiley, I don't think he played. Like Armagh shouldn't be getting carried away with themselves either, is probably the point I'm making. Yes, it was great to get the win against Monaghan, but we're facing two massive challenges now against Tyrone and Donegal in the next 2 weeks, and it's probably just key for Armagh supporters just not to get ahead of themselves and to let Armagh settle into this Division 1.
Yeah, well, I suppose, look, if you take our sort of previous form over the last couple of seasons, we had done reasonably well against Monaghan the last time we played them in in the championship. Whereas if you sort of look at that, so we haven't played Tyrone for a wee while, but certainly that Donegal game last year, they certainly seemed on the day. Look, hopefully that there was a gulf, but look, hopefully that's a gulf that can be bridged. Yeah, look, Conor McManus is just an outstanding footballer and has been for so long. And yeah, look, not having him for the whole 70 minutes is a massive, was a massive blow for Monaghan. So yeah, look, I think we would have, over the last season or two, we would have certainly had the view of Armagh that they're very capable of being competitive against against a Monaghan team. That, as you'd mentioned, that they have lost, that they have been losing a couple of players, and Tyrone, certainly, if you say, well, put it like this, if you were to look at the list of favourites for the All-Ireland this year, Tyrone and Donegal will be very high up that pecking order, probably in the top 4 or 5, along with Kerry and Dublin. So look, it was brilliant. It was a brilliant win, and it has transformed the league campaign, and that you've got it's almost like a free shot now for the next couple of weeks. If you can get another win, then that'll hopefully be us in Division 1 next year.
And there was probably a lack of intensity as well at times during the game. On the second half particularly it was end to end, and it was probably good entertainment that it was so open and end to end. But in terms of what Geezer's thinking on for the weeks ahead, was that lack of intensity maybe, is that worrying, or is it to be expected in first day out?
Yeah, I think we need to put a wee bit of context into the fact that it is the first competitive game since Donegal. You're never going to be at the pitch you need to be for. We'd be lucky with the pitch of it for club football, never mind inter-county football, even though as well as the boys mind themselves and prepared. So like you get a bit of a ball from that. But again, just the only thing that I found maybe from it, which the good initial burst seemed to be huge pressure up the field, trying to pen Monaghan in. And again, I'm only taking from what I could see on TV, is we looked like we nearly had our whole team dropping back, or definitely at least 13 men dropping back to inside our own half. And to me, I was lucky enough. I was at the Donegal and Armagh game in the championship, just doing a bit of radio work on it, and that's what we did against them. And to be honest with you, it's particularly once you got from midfield to air 45, air defensive 45, that's where Donegal absolutely crucified us, because there wasn't the manic intensity that you really need. If you're going to drop men back there, like, you have to be hitting everything that moves. Your aggression levels have to be at their maximum, because you're one pass away from someone receiving the ball in the scoring zone. And that Donegal game in particular, 3 times in a row, they just played away with the ball 65 yards out and punted it straight to the edge of our D, and someone come leading out from full forward, took a mark, tapped it over the bar. And something as simple as that there penned us in. We couldn't get the ball out against them. So for me, that was one area that I felt we really needed to improve and step up on for this year. And we didn't really see it yesterday. So whether it's something that they're being coached and we just didn't execute, or we're not up to the pace of it just yet, I'm not sure. But again, like Paddy has just said, like Monaghan, while they were ultra consistent for 10 years, they're probably in transition at this stage. But over the next 2 weeks, you're realistically coming up against the 2 favourites for the Ulster Championship here, and 2 teams who definitely would be seen as being in your top 6 in the country. So we're going up a level now. We're going up a notch this week. So I would like to think that everything that we do in terms of our behaviour and getting the ball back will have to go up a level again.
Sorry, go on, Paddy.
I know, it's just one point. It was just when Aaron, I went and checked there. It was, look, Monaghan do seem to be a team in transition, but I actually checked when we last played them in 2019, and funny, both teams, I think, based on my what could be dodgy counting, had started 8 clears from that back in started 8 clears again there yesterday. So it's funny how much teams change. You probably don't. You probably wouldn't have thought that, from an Armagh perspective. But I'll say, well, Monaghan had the 8 clear starting, and one of them was the manager. One of them was the manager in 9th, Penny Corey, who was at the Bannister bid. But no, just Yeah, you wouldn't have expected there that Armagh had basically half a different team, but there you go.
I suppose they did have a few new boys, the likes of O'Hanlon started yesterday, and Charlie O probably was about in 2019 as well. I'm not sure. He was in 2019. The likes of Conor Mackin probably didn't start that day, or Aaron McKay. Aaron, how important is it to sort of find the balance for Armagh? Like, we're talking about their attacking quality, and then maybe not so much question marks in the defence, but plenty of improvement in defence. How important is it to find the balance, or how difficult is it to find the balance? Because Armagh are going to be forced to, if they're going to play the likes of a Jamar Hall who can get up and down the field and sort of do both roles, instead of playing maybe a Connor Turbot who's an out-and-out scorer. It's difficult to find the balance when Armagh have such attacking quality.
It is, because, realistically speaking, you'd be taken away from what is our strongest point, which is what we have in our attacking sense. But we do, every good team builds from the back, from your goalkeeper out. You need to be solid there, because if you're going to keep conceding, you're going to keep losing. So you have to be ultra competitive whenever you don't have the ball. To me, the balance really has to be struck between trusting your players that they can do their job one-on-one. But whenever, say, if I'm playing as wing half back and the ball's coming down the opposite side of the field, I don't need to be standing out in the sideline. You see everyone's hugging touch lanes now. It's not dropping back as a sweeper per se. It's playing your position until your man's out of the game and you can then help somebody else. And it's knowing where the danger is coming from, and that does take time, but you probably just don't get a whole pile of time whenever you're competing against the elite. So we're going to have to learn fairly quickly. But I know it's something that Kieran McKeever, that's how he would coach and that's how he would have played. And he'll be harping on to the boys that as soon as your man's out of the game and he's no longer a danger, well, you're thinking, who can I help now? Can I block a hole? Can I block a space? And defensively, conceding what we conceded 1-12 yesterday, it's not bad for your first day out. But I know they'll be trying to bring that number down. As tough as it will be in Division 1, they'll look to stay below the 15 points and what you're conceding. But in terms of how we attack, I just think that the more, if we keep dropping boys back, it just leaves that we don't have the same options to deliver long early ball up the field. We need to potentially be holding a few more players, at least 4 ahead of the ball at all times, and have them, they still have to work just as hard. It's not stand up there and wait till we get the ball to you. It's put as much pressure, as much heat, get as much contact on to slow the ball coming out, to give our defence and our midfield time to set up. But also, as soon as we get it turned over, we need to have targets up the field, that we have an outlet in our half-forward line, and obviously someone then to play it on the inside. Because in terms of a kicking game, if you don't have someone in your attacking 45, you don't have it in a kicking game, because it's just running from one end of the field to the other. And that's where our strengths are. We have the personnel who can play that 45. And as Paddy's saying, we have endless amount of people who can play half-forward or on the inside line and do a good job, that they're there all the time as soon as we win possession back. But you're right, there is a balance between what we concede, but still not taken away from what's going to win us games and what is their strong point. And like I said, hopefully that's only new coaches in as well. Like, obviously Geezer's been there for a long time with Dennis, but in terms of Kieran McKeever, Kieran Donaghy, they're just new to coaching at inter-county level. They're new to this group. So it will take them a wee bit of time. But like I said, they couldn't get off to a better start still. And we need to bear that in mind also.
And Paddy, we're talking about trying to find that balance. And I suppose there's one player that he can play in attack and score points like he did on Sunday. He can be the best man marker in the back. If we need him, he can link the play. If we need him to do that, that's Aidan Falker. And I suppose yesterday he scored 3 points all from play. He spent time at full forward. I think he started maybe at centre half forward, or centre half back, sorry. But McManus maybe not playing free Aidan Falker up a wee bit, that he wasn't detailed to man mark him from the very start. But where's Aidan Falker's best position for you, Paddy, in this Armagh team? Should he be in that forward line, getting a few scores a game? Should he be a man marking defender, or should he be rotating like he did yesterday?
Look, I'd be very much of the view that if it's not broke, don't fix it. In terms of, I mean, he's having a spectacular impact at the minute. He's been our best player for probably some now. He's been so good. Like I was looking back at the match. You remember that the goal chance that Stefan had actually led to a point. It was a really good save. I think Ryan put over the 40. Put over the 45. Then that actually all came from Aidan Faulkner winning the ball in defence. Coming out, beaten, probably wasn't even the favourite to win the ball, but he won it sort of against the head and set off that attack. And as you say, he ended up getting 3 points. But he's playing so well that I think you try to continue to get that out of him, and we do. We talk about this every week, Sean. We have more options. We have more options in the forward line than in defence. So, when Aidan's doing so well there, I think you just continue to use it to the best advantage of the team.
And what do you think, Aaron? Like we've seen him mark McManus before and hold him to a point. We've seen him mark Michael Murphy last year and done brilliantly on him. Probably one of the only highlights of that game last year from an Armagh perspective. But you've also played against him where he's played full forward and had a massive impact there. Where would you see Aidan Faulkner? Should he be playing, or where's his best impact on the team?
To be fair, it's hard to agree with Paddy there in terms of what he can do defensively. But from even going back to 2014, whenever he sort of really started to get used to the half forward role, he was that worker, the physical presence, but he was also an outlet and he's also scoring up there as well. So he, to me, and obviously we see what he did in the county final last year and the form he's had in club football this past 5 or 6 years, particularly playing in full forward for Mahary. He's a very, very smart player as well, takes other people into the game, and he could be a focal point for us up front. What sort of looked like to me yesterday now was, and thank God he seems he's got a bit of a run injury free. James Morgan looked, as lean and as sharp as he's been, and he's had a good run at pre-season, which he hasn't had for a long time. And I know he picked up Bannigan in the first half yesterday, but he then actually got the job of McManus, or so it looked to me from TV that he was the one who was tracking him. So that might potentially, if he's going to get your, now obviously every team could have 3, 4, 5 players once you're in Division 1 in terms of main men, but Morgie getting your main man again yesterday might potentially free Aidan up that he could play, whether they said it was half back or half forward. It was really hard to tell where he was. It looked like he started at 6 but nearly moved to 11, and Kieran O'Hanlon come back to 6, but for him to still get the turnovers, to still be the physical presence, but kick 3 points from play was massive. But the only concern was you just caught a glimpse of him going off at the water break whenever the game was in the melting pot. Tells me that he either picked up a knock or he looked like he was icing a calf whenever a camera zoomed in on one stage, and hopefully it was only like a bit of a knock or a bit of a dead calf and not a soft tissue injury, because if it is, that could leave him struggling to be fit for us this weekend or even the following weekend, which would be a massive, massive loss to us.
And just to finish up on this, Aaron, looking forward to next weekend, you would hope Armagh have all the momentum. They won at the weekend while Tyrone lost. How do you see this weekend going? Like it's a big game for Armagh. Probably will have a wee bit more belief, and certainly the supporters will have a wee bit more belief now that they can compete at this level, and taking on Tyrone. No better game to try themselves out.
Yeah, like I said, there's no doubt about it. Like we're going up a level. I know Tyrone lost, and obviously we picked up 2 points. But realistically speaking, if you're being honest, hand and heart, and you ask the whole country who's the best team between Armagh and Tyrone, probably 99% of them will pick Tyrone. But you see, our confidence is up. It's a home game for us, and consistency now in terms of back-to-back performances. Like how many times over this past 10 years have we won a game, looked like we were motoring well, and slipped up again? It did happen even again last year at certain stages. So that's one thing that Geezer is going to be harping on. Like, while it's brilliant and we all might be in great form in that there today, that you can be certain that the management team have parked yesterday, took the positives from it, absolutely, but they'll be more focusing on what went wrong, how can we get better for this weekend, and the fact that you have Tyrone coming to the Athletic Grounds It's massive, and the players are gonna buy into that and feed into it. Obviously, the support won't be there, but there's just a buzz and excitement, whenever you're involved in that camp, and you're going to training. This is what you're training for. This is what it's all about, playing against your top teams, games coming so regularly. So the players would be loving it. They'd be mad to get back to training, to get the recovery done, and they'd be mad to get back training, get on the field, get working on whatever needs to be improved on, and another chance to perform on live TV at the top level again this weekend. And I would see there's no reason why we need to be fearful at all of Tyrone this weekend. It will be a step up, but I believe that we have the players that are capable of doing it.
It's definitely one to look forward to, man. And just before we finish up, congratulations, as I mentioned at the start, to the Camogie side, who got up and running at the weekend, beating down in the first round on the hurlers as well. Got off to a winning start. They beat Longford on Sunday. So we'll be back on Thursday, hopefully, with our preview show as Armagh take on Tyrone on Saturday evening. And we look forward to that and look forward to the big game at the weekend. So, man, thanks very much for coming on and discussing the first round of the National League with us.